Welcome back to Jeremy Hanger. This is Mike. I'm coming at you with another video. This I want to talk to you about the Robotech 1985 Matchbox toys. And these toys are actually pretty cool. Didn't have most of these when I was a kid, so it was really fun when I acquired this collection. Now, there are mostly the bad guys Zentraedi figures, mechs, and all that stuff. I'm going to get into talking about the vehicles. I'm going to talk about the figures and why they're 6-inch versions versus the 3 3/4 inch. I'm going to talk a little bit about the show. So let's get right into the 2000 figures. And I'm going to go real quick through these figures. This is the Dana Starling figure, and I had her when I was a kid. I acquired this collection. Oddly, they had her gun, but not her figure, or her helmet, or her shield. I have her shield somewhere in the abyss of stuff. I knew I'd drop that. But anyway, Dana Starling. Next, we have Lisa Hayes, which is a female figure of a pilot, and the different pilot, like the other two pilots we have that are dressed like this, are the same exact mold, which is different color, hair and costume. This is Max Sterling, who is actually Dana Starling's brother, the brother of that girl. And the thing is that I couldn't fit his gun in his hand because the hands were so small. I didn't want to break the thumbs like I've done on some others, so. Here's Rand. Rand decided to go get a phaser from Star Trek and said, I'm going to be on Robotech with a phaser. Or whatever that is. Same thing, and I couldn't fit his gun in his hand either because those fingers are nice and small and tight. Don't want to break them. But it's Roy Fokker, and he inspired 2 movies. He was Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers. Wait, that's not the right guy. Anyway, there's the backside of him. But this pilot he actually has pretty much the same mold as the other pilots, just different color scheme. Here's Rick Hunter, and the person I got the collection off of had 3 Rick Hunters. So, not really sure, maybe he just really liked the character, wanted some extra pilots for his mechs that, well, aren't included in this collection. But anyway, pretty cool figure. And I'm going to show you why it matches the Voltron. Here you are with a Voltron figure and a Rick Hunter figure. And as you can see, they both kind of have a flight suit look to them, the helmet and all that. Voltron, but Robotech took it a step further and made it G.I. Joe Articulation, and just presents a little bit better, a little bit shinier, and the colors hold up better after 30 years than the Voltron figures. But in my mind, like, I kind of looked at these as the same because they both showed up on the Gibson's clearance aisle, and that's where I got mine when I was a kid. Now, I really can't show you all that without showing you that they have the exact same build and articulation as Joe figures. You could actually take apart this guy and then interweave Joe parts if you wanted to, which I don't know why you would, but that's just the way they were built. And they both have this swivel right here, and they both have the leg gimmick, and they both use the same rubber band idea, which I don't want to bend too far or hyperextend because they'll both fail. And I'm using Roadblock because he's one of my favorite Joes. By the way, Dwayne Johnson is an awesome actor and did not do Roadblock justice. Some of his words should have worked in rhymes, and that's the robot character. But we kind of abandoned character when it came to the Joe movies and just said we're going to do whatever we want. And at least they did better than the Transformer movies. So we're moving into what I believe to be bad guy characters, or maybe split in the middle, but Marinia? This is Zor Prime, definitely a bad guy with that purple hair and the giant tape measure, because he's going to measure how much area he's going to take over. Last but definitely not least, I've got a little army of Zentraedi warriors here, and they look great, and why would you have one when you could have 3? Obviously, this guy got 3 of these. Makes a lot more sense than 3 Rick Hunters, right? Before I move on to the 6-inch figures and why we have 6-inch figures, I want to point out the fact that these 3 3/4 inch figures stand up like bosses. I mean, can you think of another 3 3/4 inch line? Joe, Star Wars, anything that stands up this well. Like, I took maybe a couple seconds each to make sure they were balanced and stood right, and they've kept standing. If I try to stand up all my Joes, they all fall down. It's domino effect. Star Wars is even worse. I mean, I have to have peg boards for them. I mean, Star Wars is probably better than Joe in a way because they're 5 POAs. These guys stand great. So next thing I want to talk to you about is the 6-inch line of the Zentraedi figures. And so the bad guys are the Zentraedis, and they stand about, well, they stand about 20 inches versus a 3/4, so 4 or 5 times the amount of height. So they're really not in scale. But if you say, hey, Rick Hunter versus Zentraedi, that you can tell Zentraedis are not human, and they're giants compared to humans. So it works. But let me throw you in a 3 3/4 or 6-inch, 6-inch modern character. So it's almost like, wow, Matchbox, who made the secondary Hot Wheels. They didn't make Hot Wheels, they made the Matchbox cars. They made the secondary cars. Really could see 30 years into the future. I mean, they really should have been consulted when Back to the Future was being made, so that what's the future going to look like? They would have said, well, the future's going to look like 6-inch figures, right? Marvel, Star Wars. Anyway, moving into this, they are similar in size, and it feels so weird to get this collection, and I never really thought about it, but they had the 2 scales in 1985. Weird, huh? That we're battling now. Collectors don't like 6-inch, but we love it, but we don't like it. It's weird. And they did it back then. I'm not really going to go into these guys too in depth, but as you can see, a couple of them were actually made. That's Miria right there. A couple of them were made that different costumes, whatever, in both sizes. And, you know, I really think that it's kind of cool they did that in a way, because I'm sure these cost twice as much as those. Those were 2, and these were probably 4 or 5 back then, and now they sell for, what, $20 a piece. So I'm going to start talking about this Biohovercraft and the Biotroopers. And I thought this thing was, when I first saw this, I was like, what a cheap pot shot of a toy, but I'm sure it was only like a few bucks. And it was some sort of a play value to it. And you could pile all your figures on it and just make something happen. But these Biotroopers are pretty cool too. And I just think that the colors are just so consistent with the time. So with the era. You don't see stuff coming out with these colors these days. So the first vehicle I want to discuss is this Invid scout ship. It doesn't hold a figure. So it's kind of a scaled down version of what you're going to see in just a minute, the Invid shock trooper. And so it's not as big. It has no real guns and armor, and it's just a scout ship. And the claws don't move. There's no gimmicks. Here's the box. The box shows that it was a $5 toy back in the day. It's funny. You know, wouldn't it be nice if the toys, we want you for the RFD, if the toys cost the same today that they did back then? That'd be amazing. Next up is the Invid Shock Trooper. Now this guy has some gimmicks, like his little claw right here opens up and closes. So he's not going to be grabbing one of his guys. He's going to be grabbing one of these guys. And then you'd be like, oh no, let him go. No, he doesn't let go. No matter how hard you try. Unless he was grabbing him from the leg, the lower leg. You stuck him in there. Hey, let go. But then also you can open up this compartment here and you can fit in a figure. But the problem with that is that the compartment will not close once you put a figure in. I mean, if you just set them in. And it's weird too, because they show the picture, and I'll show you that in a second, of an officer on the back. But anyway, this won't close with him in there any way, shape, or form. I've tried bending the legs and all that stuff. He won't fit in there. So I thought that was really weird. I don't know if someone's got some tricks, but they don't even show the actual trooper that should drive it. They show this guy. I don't have this guy. But he still, if you look at his head, it won't close the canopy. Next up, you get the tactical battle pod. And mine's missing the antenna here, which I think I can track down with my friend or whatever that has them, and one more antenna here. But this thing here, this thing has some balancing issues. And when you look at the box art, so the colors of the actual battle pod, white, yeah. The legs look white, but they're not white. And then the blue is teal, but it's not blue, it's not teal. So, like, that doesn't work. But then if you look at the rest of the box, and you say, oh, well, you know what? They repainted it and all that stuff, but it still doesn't match. That stuff frustrates me so much. I know they do this stuff with the toys and the production, but it really frustrates me. Mine has balance issues, so if you were to open it, to put a figure in, you can't get it to fit the right. It should stand like this, but it would fall over. So I don't know. Figure fits in there fine, but it's got balance issues. Maybe if I had the antenna or whatever it counterbalances, I don't know. But I mean, they blew up a bunch of these in the cartoon, so you gotta have them. So next I want to talk about the Zentraedi Officer's Battle Pod. And this thing is probably the coolest of the vehicles I got. Now I got mostly bad guy vehicles, and Zentraedi's the bad guys, whatever. Oddly enough, this is a battle pod, but the back of the box features, yes, a Zentraedi warrior in it. I mean, none of this stuff makes sense. Whoever put this together and set this all up was just kind of making it up as they went, or just trying to figure out what they could fit where. And I understand that in a way, because these things don't exactly flow fluidly in a toy line, but they look great. Now this is my favorite. I think this looks awesome. I mean, it holds a figure. It does so much that I think a toy should do. Now I can't get the canopy open on the screen, which should probably be the easiest thing that you do with a toy, is get a canopy open. But anyway, it fits the figure just fine. You can close the canopy, and then you can adjust these. And I mean, really, you know, if you're showing up with your Cyclone Cycler, Armored Cyclone, you'd be kind of scared to come up against that. Again, the color doesn't match the artwork, and that bothers me. I mean, why not paint it the way the artist painted it? It doesn't make sense. I mean, does white paint cost more than blue paint? I don't get it. Why? So the next video I want to talk about is this hover tank. Now, when I think of this line, I think of Jetfire. And should I pull a Jetfire and show you, or do you know what a G1 Transformer Jetfire looks like? This guy is the closest thing to Jetfire in the line. They did make this weird-looking abomination that was a robot that transformed, but the main Veritech fighter that they made did not transform. So this thing transforms into this, and I'm not going to actually do the transformation for you or show you how it works, because this thing is 30-something years old. It's 33 years old. I mean, it's almost old enough to run for president. But yet, I'm not going to risk breaking it. Even though the guy that bought this for $10, it cost me $200 to buy this thing again in the box. So I think it's cool. You can't really put the figure in it. If you look at the transformation aspect of it, I got to flip them around, but the figure goes into a chair, which is right there, when he turns into the semi-Gerwalk mold, the hover tank, the tank mode, and that's kind of cool. But I'm going to show you the box real quick, and you can kind of see a few more things from it, and then I'll show you a gimmick that it does. But here you can see Dana Sterling's head popping out of there, and then my box has some bends in it and stuff. But pretty cool, and it's a change from the General Veritech Fighter Macross Gerwalk vehicle, and I think it looks awesome. I mean, out of all of these, this is my favorite. And even if I had the jet, I would be like, it's just a jet, it doesn't transform. So I wouldn't think that's all that great. But another cool thing is that you see how he has this little gun right here on this side? Well, that gun on the other side turns into an actual, you pull it out of there and transform it into a gun here. It's just interesting. They come up with all this stuff 30 years ago, and much awesome play value. Okay, the last two things I want to talk about is the Armored Cyclone and the Spartan. The Armored Cyclone is a toy that I had when I was a kid. I thought it was really cool, actually. Pretty cool. And I could put all my Joes on it. It has the holes. Now the holes fit right, and then the backpacks actually fit into that 5mm port on the back of the figures too. Didn't point that out just yet. And this guy, he is die cast like in the center, the torso and the legs, and then plastic here and then, well, if you call that a head. But I don't know if there's more of these that were made. This is the only one I have. They call it Spartan. But anyway, hope you enjoy this. So, Jerry, hang her out.